All right, the time has finally come. We've been talking about this since the playoffs. We've been wanting to podcast, and we're finally here. My name is Alex Lorenzo. I am alongside Joe Black, Coach Joe Black, I should say, as he will be the X's and O's man of this podcast. I will be the feelings man of this podcast. But we come from Fairfield, Connecticut, about an hour and a half from Mohegan, and now we both actually live in Trumbull, 3 minutes from ourselves. But Joe, give a little background about yourself and you as a WNBA fan.
Yeah, hey, it's fun to be here. We started talking about this as a little gag and side thing that, we were going to get into the WNBA. And I mean, I've been watching it for a couple of years now, pretty closely. Just, I try to absorb as much basketball as I can. WNBA is considerably, very similar to the college boys and high school boys game just by the style of play. I kind of tried to get everyone in the friend group to jump on the WNBA bandwagon. I mean, yes, Caitlin Clark also, with her popularity, I knew it was going to be, a golden age of the WNBA because of her popularity. Fortunately, Alex was one that really got into it and, bought in. And I told him, I was like, hey, we've got the Connecticut Sun. They're here. We should go to a game. And, we went to a game last year. And since then, Alex has been hooked. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm only here because of Joe. Joe brought me to a game. He paid for my ticket and everything. It got me there. And I had a great time, and I've been hooked ever since. And it really is just like college, both boys and women's college, boys and women's, men's and women's college basketball, which I love more than the NBA. I think college basketball is just a better style by far.
It is. It's completely different. I mean, pros, don't get me wrong, they're the most talented athletic people in the world in the NBA, but it really is just a different style of basketball. This one's more, or WNBA, college sports are definitely more favorable from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah, and well, when we talked about doing this podcast, when we were in the conference finals, we did not see this first episode coming the way it did. This offseason has been an absolute mess, for lack of a better words, or just a crazy turnaround, we should say. It all started with Coach Steph leaving for Indiana and being replaced with Rachid Meziane. We'll start with, we watched his a few videos of his opening pressers and his one-on-one interviews. And it started with GM Morgan talking about, she kind of gave a little generic nonsense, he's a great fit for the Suns organization. Everybody I spoke to him spoke highly of him. But the one thing I took away was that she said his coaching ability with basketball IQ, specifically preps and schemes, which is a big thing that he talks about a lot. We'll get into. But it seems that we're going to be starting to actually play a little ball and not that's the main goal of the team, is to play a little Euro ball at least.
Yeah, no, it seems like it's a complete 180 from last year and what we saw. I think a lot of the offense, is run through Alyssa Thomas, and as it should have been. She's one of the best passers in the league. She's a top 12 player in the league. Just listening to between his introduction and a lot of the one-on-one stuff, it seemed like he wants to go with the notion of, if we can have multiple options here to be scoring threats, you make your offense hard to guard. The thing about European basketball is they're normally a few years ahead on trends in the Euro leagues. It's just, a lot of the things that we take over here come from, the Spanish leagues, the Turkish leagues. And a lot of that is the read and react and freedom of movement, right? So the talent level may not be as great overseas, but they really execute on the X's and O's. It's a lot of ball screens, a lot of off-ball movement, a lot of, phrases read and react, right? You see a defense, based on what the defense does, you use your basketball IQ to make a decision. Mm-hmm. He talked a lot about that in the sense of the style of player he wants to coach, the different kinds of schemes they want to run. And, I know he kept using the phrase, we're working on our strategy. I think that's just the political answer of, hey, we only have 3 or 4 players on our roster right now. Let's see who we have before we make some picks. But I know that he gave he gave a lot of like insight to his mentality as a coach. One thing we can talk about is his 3 pillars.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to go. Actually, before we get into that, I just wanted to run down a little bit of who he is.
Yeah.
He's a 7th head coach for the Sun. He won his French Women's League last year, and it was as the Belgian national coach. He was coach of the year in 2013, where he won gold in Euros. So he won the gold in the women's Euros, excuse me. And so he's a winner. He's proven he can win, and he can take a women's team and win it all, win gold / an entire league. So that excites me just right there. But yeah, so the first thing he did talk about was the 3 pillars of hard work. I want you to get in on that as a coach. What did you think? Is it just generic coach speak, or is it some substance?
I think it's a little bit of both in the beginning. His 3 pillars that he came up with, and every coach has their identity, has their beyond the X's and O's, it's to build a culture, right? Especially if you're starting brand new. And yes, he was very successful overseas, but now he comes to America where even, people who do watch basketball all the time, like he's not a household name. So his first job is building a culture for the Sun moving forward, right? You come off of season last year where you're so successful, and then, you lose the majority of the roster, as we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
You have to have a culture. So like with him having his 3 pillars of hard work, discipline, and communication, I mean, it's very easily like the first steps to building that culture, right? So I coach at Staples High School basketball. It's my 2nd year there. My head coach, Dave Goldshore, came in as a first-year coach. He was a JV coach for, I believe, 5 to 7 years, somewhere in that range, before taking over as the head coach. And his whole thing was building a culture as well, right? And that's what we're trying to do here. It's that idea that you need people bought in, right? They need to be disciplined because, you're still a coach and there's still players in the system. You want everyone following the same direction. You can't really have one person go off on their own tangent. There's 5 people on the basketball court. One person does something wrong, runs a play wrong, is not aligned with the goals of the rest of the team. It's going to throw everything off. And then communication. I mean, you got to talk playing basketball. It's not a sport that you can just play silently and be successful. So understanding like transparency and making sure, the coaching staff, the players, the medical facility, the medical team, the trainers, like everyone's on the same page when starting their roster construction and everything. Like the whole culture has to follow like one shining light, one guideline, and everyone has to be on the same page.
A few quotes that I liked personally. I don't believe in relying on talent, especially seeing our roster and what happened to it. Not that the girls that are on the team aren't talented; they obviously are. But together, what are they going to be? It's their first year together. It's well, I also took these notes down before we got Tina Charles as well. I will say that, but when you don't rely on talent, you rely on ball movement. You rely on communication. You rely on all those things you were just talking about. So I would love to see a team that plays like that. So if that's not all just talk, and he really believes that, he's going to have to, because we're lacking a lot of star power compared to last year. And he also said every player has to feel valued. It sounds simple. It sounds like every coach should have that, but I don't think I've ever heard a coach actually say that.
It's definitely a mindset, and definitely like the new age basketball. Unfortunately, what people don't realize is like, of course, the players are going to be valued as humans and players equally, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be valued on the floor the same way. Naturally, you're going to have someone who takes 15, 20 shots, and then you're going to have someone who is known as a defender and a rebounder or something along those lines. Or you are a role player and you come in for a few minute stretches just to give the starters a break. Like, basketball is a puzzle, right? Not all the pieces are the same size, but like you have to value those pieces for what they are. We talk a lot about like excelling in your role, winning your role, and you're going to be valued in this gym. But like, yes, of course, like the star player is going to have a little more leeway on things versus, the 12th person on the roster.
I hate to compare it to them because you know I hate them, but it's good because I'm sure half of the listeners will probably like them. It's the Patriots. Do your job.
Correct.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's Tom Brady's gonna take over maybe, but like everyone's valued. Even Matthew Slater, the punt returner, is gonna do his job to his ability and help the team win, and he's valued just as much as Tom Brady by everyone. So
Right.
it's when if that's real, that's how you build the locker room. I believe that's
It is. There's a natural pecking order, and that's in any sport. There's going to be some people, that are just looked at in a bigger light, have more of the limelight, but it doesn't mean that you're not appreciated. So yeah, I mean, if you can build, and that goes back to building the culture, right? Like everyone's going to be valued, but like everyone's going to understand what their role is going to be. And of course, people are going to strive for a bigger role, but like that might not happen day one. Like especially with a roster like this that we may see this year, things are going to be changing throughout the season. Nothing's from day one. That as he's getting used to the players and the players are getting used to the coach and the system, like things are going to be different day one versus game 15.
yeah, and I can't even imagine by playoff time and what our team looks like, and next year what it'll look like. Hopefully, we'll get into it. Hopefully, you get some draft picks coming, but a couple more quotes. I have a list of a lot of stuff I liked and then some stuff I didn't like, but the stuff I didn't like is very very minor. But a couple more quotes. I'm just trying to find my spot now. He said, "Trust me when I say I will never give up and make you proud." It's just good to hear that from a coach. You don't have to say anything like that, but it's good to hear him feel like he wants to make the community of the fan base proud, even with
Yeah,
those
and
he has.
he knows what he's walking into in a year one. This is definitely not a 1 year plan to. You're not drafting Caitlin Clark and taking your team to the playoffs year one. You're not drafting, Brianna Stewart. Like those players aren't coming to Connecticut right now. So
Yeah,
it's
right now we
understanding
only
like
have the eighth pick.
there's gonna be probably a bunch of rough days, and it's understanding like it's a part of a process, and like he's not going to give up just because things get tough day one. It's definitely coach speak, as we
Yeah,
say.
but it's good coach speak. I will say. I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe I fell for it, but he did mention the ultimate goal is to win championships. I don't know with his him not speaking English. I won't hold him to the championships. Like if you're a Yankees fan, Brian Cashman has been saying we want championships, and we haven't won one since. So I don't know if that's a good thing to say or not. But he
yeah,
did say
that
championships, but
same
that's
same
also
thing.
yeah
Very very much coach speak of just like that's something more for the fans than for them,
yeah.
right? That's to say,
I
hey,
love
we
hearing
want to
whether
be competitive, we want to
yeah.
go through this.
I love hearing if they say championship or championships, though. That is something I do love saying.
Not
I do
one,
love
not two, not
that.
three.
Yeah, and he said we want to build culture and have scoring responsibility shared, which is good because, well, I'm gonna say it can't just be Marina. We'll get to that in a little. Breaking news. But now, yeah, it can't just be Tina. But yeah, you got to get everyone involved, and we have a lot of unknowns on this roster, as we'll get into. What else did he say? Specifically, he said he wants to get to the Euro style we talked about, ball movement and IQ. He was asked about the perception of Connecticut overseas, and I was hoping he would say something about pizza or something funny or like um, good people. I don't know, but he just said very well respected, and they're always in the playoffs.
They're not talking about Connecticut over in Europe.
No, not at all. And he was like struggling to even think about what he was like. Yeah, yeah, they're always in the playoffs. They know that. The only thing bad was the language barrier, and you had the same notes as me. Um, he was told to talk. He told the reporters to talk. They told the whoever was in charge, the PR people, said talk slow. He multiple times he asked to repeat questions. There were two answers where he didn't answer it correctly. That he was asked about what his non-negotiables were that came with him, and he said we are building strategy. Basically said we're improving in all areas, and he wants. And when he was asked about having coached other WNBA players overseas, he said something about opening the doors for coaches to come to the W instead of players to come
Yeah,
back.
he was saying that
He
like
did.
hopefully other coaches follow his lead and take a step, into the league as well, because the WNBA is, the top league for women's in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a couple questions in the one-on-one too where they were like, so do you think you're going to bring so-and-so back? Like, can you bring this person back? And it's like, he's just like, no, they're over there. That's just what he just was, he's like,
Well,
I don't think that's a thing. I don't
I
think that's,
think I think part of the language barrier, part of it was the language barrier, which we'll get into more closely why I'm not too concerned about it. And then the other part of that is, there are rules when it comes to free agencies and people who are under contract who you can talk to. So even if they're not in the league, if they're under contract in a league in Europe, like you can't really be specifically saying like, hey, we're going after this person. Because they brought up the name Emma, and I looked it up, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, but it was Emma Messerman or something along those lines. And I guess she was a very productive player a few years ago, and she sat out last season. So I think like her technically not under being a free agent, not under contract, that's why they were able to like at least mention her name as somebody who might be interested in coming back from overseas. But in regards to like the language barrier and the repeating of the questions, I mean, there's many coaches that come over from Europe, and their English might not be the strongest when they first come, but basketball is a universal language. Like, there's the keys there, and like everyone speaks the same language but a different way in basketball, right? We all have. I call it a screen, you call it a pick and roll. I call it a flare, you call it a back screen. Like, there's different words for all the different actions and things that you want to accomplish. But at the end of the day, basketball is a universal language. The players are going to understand at that point. And I think the more he's over here, the more connection he's going to learn. It's just like if a player was coming overseas, I'm sure, it's just learning about the culture, right? Learning about the English American culture versus French culture. And I'm sure we'll see some funny TikToks down the road, or videos of him like learning about more American things and whatnot, i.e. like looking at Giannis discovering Oreos and dipping them into milk and how they're the most amazing thing to him. But I don't think it's a huge concern. I think, it's more just media being in front of the media right now, but that's what comes with anything. The more you talk, the more you do something, the more comfortable you get with it.
Yeah. And so that's anything else from the one-on-one interviews that you heard that you want to talk about? I wrote some stuff down, but it kind of repeats what we've discussed already.
No, a lot of things were covered. One of the things I talked about was they didn't really talk about the rebuild in like the introductory press conference, which I was surprised about. They didn't talk about, the loss of the star players and all that. I understand it's a new regime with a new head coach, so he didn't actually coach these players. But I thought it was very interesting that they didn't, like make any comments to be like, hey, we know there's been a lot of change, but like this is what we're looking forward to. And again, this was before a couple of the signings that have happened over the last couple of days.
Yeah, when he came, there was maybe 5 players on the team.
Oh, I was looking. I think it was actually 3 official players and 2 that were invited for summer practice spots or training camp spots.
That's crazy. Yeah, I would expect like a question like, what was the thought process in accepting a job with like this like little of a roster?
Right. Or did you know that the roster was going to go through this turnover, like, because definitely as a coach, I mean, obviously anytime you can have an opportunity to become a head coach in any sport, you're probably leaning to take it because they come so far and few between. But I'm very curious if the plan going into it was, hey, you're going to be able to start this roster from scratch, essentially.
Yeah, I found a couple good quotes I'll share. What makes a player championship worthy? The winning culture is the most important, so it's what I look to teach to my players. To be honest with your players is the most important. How do you get players to buy in? He said, to believe in something, we have to start dreaming, and I dream every night to win a trophy. I mean, coach speak, but good coach speak.
But it's true. You have to, like, if you don't think that you are going to be successful at some point, like you're in the wrong profession. Like you have to personally believe it, and that's step one. And then step two is being able to project your thoughts, your beliefs, your culture on other people and actually get them to respond. I could be the smartest basketball person in the world, but if no one wanted to listen to me, then I would just be writing blogs on the internet. Like I wouldn't be a coach.
It's why a lot of great not saying you weren't a great player, a lot of great NBA players don't become great head coaches. Some do now. Jason Kidd, I don't know, maybe that's the only one, but a lot of
them are point
players.
Guards. A lot of players who are point guards. It's the same thing where you look in like the Major League Baseball, right? A lot of players who are coaches are catchers. Because catchers are normally the smartest player on the field because they have to be so involved with
see the
entire team.
Yeah, that's true. And then he said we have to work hard, and because I don't believe in relying on talent again, like he said before, the work will have to be above talent. Sounds like Tom Thibodeau a little bit.
Yeah, it's also hard. It's also hard because in the Euro style of ball, like a lot of people are touching the ball every possession. So where the WNBA, the NBA nowadays, we go through a quick set or something in the first 5-10 seconds, and then it's just pick and roll, get your matchup, and then create off of that, right? Drive to the middle. Hopefully someone's in the corner for a three, alley-oop, whatever. So I'm very interested to see his offensive schemes and how they translate from a more fundamental league like the Euro League to a more talent-based league like the WNBA.
And speaking of a more talented league, well, not more talented, but equally talented league, they will be playing in Boston again this year. And he was talking about that. He said this will be the first time he's ever been in an NBA arena.
Yeah, that's wild. But again, if you're not coming to America often, like
I didn't know what to think. I was like, that's kind of crazy, but like not crazy because why would he? Unless maybe the Olympics or something. I don't know.
Right.
But that must be special for him. So hopefully we ball out in that game because that's going to be a tough one against the Fever.
Yeah, no, I was hoping that was going to be at Mohegan to maybe try to get up there and go see it. But I think it being in Boston, I'm sure the prices are going to be a little more expensive to walk into that game.
Yeah, either that or there might be some cheap ones to fill out. You got to fill out a whole arena. I mean, they did last year, so they might be more than last year. But we should definitely look into that game. We definitely want to get to some games this year.
Oh, definitely. I think we'll be able to find the time. Once my winter season ends, my schedule opens up big time. So
yeah, we got to print out some stickers and pass them around in line before we get in there. Most looking forward to off the court. I was again looking for something fun. Maybe he heard we had good pizza or something. He said not expecting something special, but I haven't had time to get around. Really like this place because it looks very calm. It's important to coach for a coach to disconnect, and where we are will help me disconnect and relax. But I am a coach that will spend a lot of time on the court watching games and videos because I have to prepare my team to win. So I guess he likes a little scenic area. In France, it was probably a big city he was living in, so it's probably a big culture shock for him. But I think it's easier to go from city to suburbs than suburbs to city, even though he's not that. I wouldn't compare where he is to the cities actually, but I don't know where he's living as coach of the Sun, but it's probably not Hartford. I would say that'd probably be the closest.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm very interested to see too as we get more introduced to Coach Meziane. Like, I'm very interested to see his personality come through. I think a lot of this too is day one interviews, in front of the camera, all that. Like, he might just be a basketball guy. Like, he might be a guy that just wants to be on the sidelines, and there are coaches like that. They have to do the interviews because that comes with the title and everything, but. I'm interested to see as we go, like his personality, if it becomes a little bit more looser, if it's just, very straight, like for now, like by the books, because again, that also goes into building the culture.
And one thing he has to do is he has to fill out his staff. I was looking at the website. There's 2 assistant coaches open. One's hired or kept, I should say, I believe. Head of player development is open, and 1 player development coach and a video coordinator, which you should apply for, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean that's important. Like, I mean, that's
Yeah,
as much as you're trying to fill out a roster because free agency is going on, and we can talk about a few of the players that are still out there as well when we get to the roster currently as today. But just important is your staff. Like, you have to have the right people because you have to have people who believe in your message. If you have conflicting personalities in a coaching staff, like that could smell trouble.
yeah. So we'll be on the lookout for these coaches, and hopefully there'll be some information on them we can get to you guys that we can look up. But all right, you ready to talk off-season moves?
Let's do it, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be a little depressing, but so I had this by date. It was first announced. It's kind of all messed up because the trade ended up being a 4-way trade. I kind of tried to find the dates after the fact by original articles written. But so don't sue me if the dates are wrong. But January 17th, a core qualifying offer was made to Alyssa Thomas. That's a qualifying offer you can make to your core players, your best players. A restricted qualifying offer to DJ Carrington, and a reserved qualifying offer to Caitlin Bickle. Spoiler alert, we only kept one of those players. I won't tell you who. January 28th, we trade Alyssa Thomas, who averaged 10, 8, and 8 last year for us, to the Phoenix Mercury. Acquired guard Natasha Cloud, who's a very good player, good defender. 11, 4, and 7 she averaged. She did get a welcome post. It was weird. She didn't get one for a while. People thought she was going to get flipped. Maybe they tried. I don't know, but she got
Yeah,
one
it,
here.
it took a little longer than you would have liked.
Yeah. We also got Rebecca Allen with that, who we will later trade. We'll talk about from the Phoenix Mercury. So first move, Alyssa Thomas gone. We get Natasha Cloud and Rebecca Allen, who we won't talk about because she's gone anyway. So, thoughts? Give me your thoughts right away.
I mean, Alyssa Thomas was really good last year. Obviously, she was, a big player for the Connecticut Sun for a handful of years. She's a focal point. She's a game changer offensively and defensively, and not just scoring. I mean, she's a player who did it all. So saying it's a big loss is an understatement. That is a huge loss for the team. I'm actually surprised we didn't get a little bit more in some
Yeah.
capacity. I don't know. I don't know as I learn more about the league, what kind of picks get traded and how far ahead you're allowed to trade picks, or if you can't trade picks every year or something. But I was a little surprised in the return, and then obviously we talked about we flipped Rebecca Allen already. So like,
Yeah, and it kind of got merged with the other one. So the pick from that trade, I guess, had to do with this trade. It's hard to really tell.
right.
But I tried to break it up. So yeah, it seemed like from what we got from the Mercury and what the Mercury got from us, that's what it was. 10, like you said, 10, 8, and 8. We're losing almost a triple double a game. Luckily, Cloud is 11 and 7 a game. So if she can bump that up a little bit, maybe it won't feel. But it's different positions. Cloud's
Yeah,
a guard.
different
Thomas a forward.
positions, and I believe Cloud might have been like the third or fourth option on the Mercury last year because she was playing with Tarazi, she was playing with Griner, she was playing. I know Copper was injured for a good chunk of the year, but like the Mercury had a lot of talent over there, so like hopefully maybe in a bigger role, she's able to up those numbers a bit.
Yeah. At least the scoring. 7 assists. That's a lot. If she can do that with us, I'll be happy with that. January. So that was January 28th. January 31st. Brianna Breezy. I like to call her Bumble because she's on those Bumble ads all over on my Instagram. Brianna Jones signs with the Atlanta Dream. I'm 50. I like Brianna Jones a lot as a player, but there were a lot of times she made me angry. There was a lot of times she made me jump for joy last season. There was a stretch that we were all over her overs because she was just dominating, and then a week or two later, it kind of fell off and disappeared. So if she's the player she is when she's dominant, that's a big loss.
Yeah, I mean, you just go over some of her accolades. I mean, she was the sixth player of the year, 3-time All-Star. She was the most improved player. Like, I don't know if towards as the season went on, like she kind of just maxed out her role within the system. Like we talked about, she had a few dominant games, and then I don't want to say she disappeared in the playoffs, but she was a little bit more inconsistent. where
They seem to go away from her more in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's like they went with a smaller lineup against certain teams, so they didn't have her on the floor as much. But
I mean, her numbers are great. I forgot to write it down, so I just looked it up. 14, 6, and 2. So
I mean,
that's 20-something points, almost 20-something assists.
Well, it's the front court. It's your starting center, starting power forward. Both going, and that's gonna be a common theme as we keep going down the list of transactions here. But no, she's another big piece that's gone. I'm probably gonna jump ahead here with you, but replacing her with Tina Charles is obviously a nice veteran piece. The numbers are somewhat similar. Tina Charles obviously much older, being the second all-time leading scorer in the WNBA. We did bring back someone to fill that hole. But Bree Jones was definitely a nice piece last year. That's definitely going to be missed.
How do you like her fit in Atlanta? And Alyssa Thomas's fit in Phoenix. I think Phoenix is going to be pretty damn good.
I think Phoenix is going to be very good. I mean, Brittany Griner is still putting up good numbers as well, so they're going to miss some of that shot blocking.
She signed Atlanta, didn't she?
She signed in Atlanta, I'm pretty sure. So Atlanta's got a lot of bigs going on down there, but that's how they've always played always had their teams. Like they've always had a bigger sized roster.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Phoenix with Alyssa Thomas now. That's crazy. We should. It's making me so angry. February 1st, we trade my second favorite player, DJ Carrington, the 2024 most improved player, averaging 13, 5, and 2, and Ty Harris, who averaged 10, 2, and 3, and the number 12 pick in this year's draft, and the rights to swap second rounders in 2026 to the Dallas Wings to acquire guard J.C. Sheldon, who was last year's 5th overall pick, didn't play too much, averaged 5, 2, and 2, and the 8th overall pick from the Wings. So we swapped 8 to 12. They get a second rounder. We swap second rounders. They get the better one. And they get a two really good players, Carrington and Harris, 2 starter caliber players. And we get
Carrington was
somebody who's obviously has a lot of potential. She was the 5th pick last year, J.C. Sheldon. Now she'll get to play. So hopefully she gets to prove herself because she was not able to play too much with the Wings.
Yeah, one of those things I see with all the roster constructions in the WNBA, and they're always talking about expanding. Like, there's a lot of players who get drafted very high, blanket statements, but there are players who get drafted very high who go off of a team very quickly, just because they don't have the roster, the number of roster spots for it. And a lot of these pros, a lot of these veterans are going to get the nod over the younger players. So I'm hoping JC gets a good opportunity. She was a very good college basketball player. So hopefully she gets a nice opportunity. I mean, losing Carrington and Harris, like Carrington was the Energizer Bunny last year. She would be guarding the best perimeter player a lot last year and, getting steals, rebounding, and, she definitely improved her scoring. I was excited to see her continue to grow. I thought with like Alyssa Thomas leaving and Bonner leaving, I thought she was going to be able to even take the next step forward with the Sun. Unfortunately, that doesn't work out. In regards to getting the 8th pick, you guys will learn I'm a big fan of Tankathon to be able to
love
check out. It's great, check out everything. I mean, right now we're projecting, and obviously things are going to change between now and then, to get Anissa Morrow from LSU.
Isn't the pick right before us? What's her name from UConn?
Fudd.
Fudd, yes, thank you. The pick right before. I would love Fudd because obviously UConn. I mean, I love Paige.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think she's going to.
No, I would assume Paige will be comfortably off the board before she gets to 8. Would be my guess.
Yeah, I think she'll be comfortably off the board too.
So we should get some kind of an impact player to help with the loss of Carrington, whether that is a perimeter player like Morrow or a shooter like Fudd. I won't pigeonhole her, a scorer like Fudd. So the pick is important to move up from 12 to 8.
Yeah, we could use everything. Let's be honest. So there's really nothing, no positions off limit. Same day, February 1st, DeWanna Bonner, averaging 15, 6, and 2 last year, signed with the Indiana Fever. every team just seemed to get better. But the big signing, we signed Tina Charles, who averaged 15, 10, and 2 last year. So those numbers might look really good next year for however long she's on the team, let's say. Somebody who's of her age probably isn't supposed to be on a team that's going to be where we are, to put it politely, for the full season. Maybe she wanted to come back, but she was the 2010 number 1 overall pick for the Suns. She played here for 3 years, 2010 to 13. She's the current all-time leader in rebounds, second all-time in scoring, MVP in 2012 for the Sun, and Rookie of the Year in 2010. 8-time All-Star, 5-time first team, 4-time All-Second team. I will say it hasn't happened in a few years for her, but the league has many insanely good players, and that's just a insanely hard thing to do, is to make a first team or a second team. But she's still an absolutely phenomenal player, and I'm thrilled we signed one of those.
Yeah, for sure. And, you and I, when we saw the signing, we were immediately like, okay, she's a trade piece at the deadline, potentially, based on where this team is. So, but again, you have a pro in the room. You have someone who's been around the league for as long as she has. She can help with these younger players, in the development, in understanding the work ethic that's needed to be a pro and a successful pro at that. We talked about culture a lot earlier on, and like Tina Charles is a culture builder. Like, she is someone who, if she buys in and if she speaks, people are going to listen to her. Like, she's going to command respect just because of everything she's already accomplished so far.
Yeah, I would hope we don't even trade her, unless, I mean, obviously everyone's got a price, but just to mentor Olivia Nelson-Ododa, that could be huge for her development, because I see big things in her if she gets starter minutes this year. I don't know if she will now with Tina, but I think she could. I believe in her, so I think Tina could really help her development.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, talking about Bonner, I was surprised she went to Indiana, based on a couple of comments about the fan base last year during the playoffs.
Want to speak.
But money does talk. And, again, the opportunity to be on a team that's going to be competing for another championship, or at least one of the contenders, maybe we'll do a season preview podcast, episode when we get closer, and, we can actually dive into top contenders and where we think people are going to be. But like, we do think the Indiana Fever are going to be in that conversation. So getting a pro like Bonner, I mean, it's the same things we're saying about Tina Charles. Like, Bonner's going to go in there and people are going to respect what she has to say.
Totally. February 3rd, we made another signing. We signed another guard to add with the addition of JC Sheldon and Natasha Cloud. We got Diamond Shields from the Sky, I believe. I just looked it up. Yeah, Sky last year. Actually, she was drafted by the Sky, then went to the Mercury, then the Wings, and then the Sky. So she's bounced around, averaging 4-1-1. Hasn't really got the chance, but so again, on a team like us, who knows? Maybe she averages 10 points next year and can shine. Doesn't seem like she's really had much of a chance. After that, February 4th, we traded Rebecca Allen, like we said, to the Sky for Lindsay Allen, no relation. Lindsay Allen averaging 7, 2, and 4. We also got the rights to Nicolina Milic, who is averaged 6, 2, and 1. And she's overseas, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, with the Shields, early on, she definitely, I mean, between 2018 and 2022, she was double digits 4 out of the 5 years. Sat out 2023 with injury. And then last year, maybe, still feeling some of the effects from that injury, not being able to do as much. But again, it's another veteran presence. I think Coach Rachid said it very clearly, like, he wants a mix of older players with experience, younger players with, the drive, ready to take the next step and like building that puzzle. So I mean, I do think she was a good pickup to have.
We also signed Maya Hollenshed, who was the number 8th pick in 2022, only played in 3 WNBA preseason games. And Robin Parks, undrafted in 2014, hasn't played since 2023 due to training camp contracts. So just be on the lookout for those names if they make the roster. Anything else you want to add before we talk about maybe the potential starting five?
Well, do we want, even though it's not a transaction that's happened yet, do we want to talk about the news today?
I almost forgot. You just ruined my night. I literally forgot about it. Before that, I'll say there's one more thing I'll read. ESPN's, they give trade grades. This was the Alyssa Thomas trade. They gave it gave us a B minus, but which I thought was kind of generous. But the quote was, Thomas' departure suggests facility issues might finally be catching up with the Sun after sharing their practice court with a kid's birthday party during the playoffs.
I feel like...
How is that real?
I feel like since I've actually started checking Instagram comments and posts a little more closely once we decided we were going to do this, I feel like a lot of people have been talking about the facility stuff.
I didn't even realize how big it was until I started doing this.
And now kind of seeing with the roster turnover from the players who have been there, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. Something had to have happened. I mean, if they don't have their own training facility, shame on you a little bit for that. I mean, where we are nowadays, definitely shouldn't be sharing it with a kid's birthday party. That just seems very outlandish.
Maybe during the regular season, maybe.
Yeah, that seems like something out of like a TV show or something. Setting it up that way.
Insanity. All right. Breaking news. My favorite player, who wasn't even on the team when we went, by the way. That was before the deadline.
Yep.
Just the playoffs. She was, I fell in love with her game and just everything about her. Marina Mabry requesting a trade.
It was only a matter of time.
It was her team. This could have been her team. I guess she wants to win.
When she got traded,
be the focal point of the Connecticut Sun.
Yeah, but when she got traded, it was to a contender.
Yeah.
Connecticut decided, and again, you never know what the season's going to bring, but on paper right now, she's not going to be on a contender. And
can we trade her at the deadline at least? I guess you get more out of her now, but
you'll get more for her now. I'm interested to see. I mean, she's a 14-point a game scorer still. Like, she can score in bunches.
I think
someone's going to want her.
Scorer on this team.
She probably would have been, but someone's going to want her, and like,
me.
They're gonna have to pay for her.
I want her. The Connecticut Sun need her. What? Unless it's for the first overall pick and we get Paige Beckers, there's nothing that would make me happy.
I
will say are good trades, but it won't make me happy. I can't. We're gonna lose I was gonna buy a jersey of her this year.
We've talked about this. You can't buy jerseys anymore of anyone who's younger. You got to get yourself a retro Tina Charles jersey, or you got to go get like a Katie Douglas jersey from back in the day. That was my girl when I was younger.
I feel like a fraud. I'm a 1-year fan.
But everyone will believe you, though. If you walk in with a Katie Douglas jersey, everyone will love it.
Yeah, until people start asking me questions about her. I have to rattle something out of my ass. So I don't know what are good landing spots. I haven't dug into who has wing spots open. Anyone off the top of your head?
Anyone off the top of my head?
Vegas has some spots open now. Plum gone.
Well, Vegas traded for Jewel Lloyd, so they've got Jewel Lloyd and Jackie Young.
They gave up a lot for Jewel Lloyd, didn't they?
Yeah, that was the Plum deal.
Oh, it was the same deal. Okay.
That was the Plum deal. So that was Plum, Lloyd, and then the Sparks gave up the second pick, which is probably going to be one of the Notre Dame players. Not sure which one.
Yeah. Who got the second pick?
Seattle.
Seattle, okay. Yeah.
So Seattle's in a good driver's seat. They still have Gabby Douglas and Skylar Diggins. So like you're adding a very good guard next to them.
It's for our Instagram. Sorry. Yeah. So who else is left? The Sky are not going to be good.
The Sky. Well, I was looking at potential free agencies that are still out there. Shenade Carter. I'm probably butchering that. You guys will also learn I'm terrible at names. They could be the simplest names, and
I'm
I'm
just
still
as
gonna
bad,
know
but I don't attempt it as much as Joe does.
So Carter's still out there, who was almost a 20-point scorer last year for Chicago. I believe I saw Tiffany Hayes. Not sure if she's retiring or not. She was on Vegas last year.
Yeah.
She was picked up halfway through the season.
She was retired, right? And then they brought her back, or she was overseas or something. Yeah, I remember them talking about that in the playoffs.
Yeah, like there was a list of like some decent names still out there. Not sure if Connecticut will be in play for any of them. I'm interested to see.
Want them at this point, or be tanking for the number 1 pick next year.
Right. Like I'm interested to see what's going to happen with if there's any players from overseas that come over to follow coach.
True.
Just the relationships he built over there.
Coming out next year?
I was actually trying to look that up and see. I'm not sure if she has. I think she's only a sophomore, but I think this upcoming year it would be, or next year. I'd have to look it up. And
feels like a Knicks. Fucking every time they get a top pick, it's like just after Ja Morant. Or like the year after, or the Giants, like we're gonna get a quarterback the year after there were 3 great quarterbacks.
Right.
Why do my teams do this to me?
It's the struggle of sports in the Northeast right now.
So a little bit more about us. I'm a Yankees, Giants, Knicks, Rangers, but I really fell off of hockey these past couple of years. UConn basketball, men and women, and then LSU football from video games back in the day. And now I'm a diehard fan of them. And now, obviously, the Sun and Aston Villa, because of Sal's helped me out with that one. And I've gotten into the Premier League. And just like Marina Mabry, my favorite player got fucking sold. So I'm glad I didn't buy a jersey of him either.
Joe, and what about you? For me, I'm a bit of I was the front-running kid growing up. But I will say I follow these teams extensively now. But I am Yankees. The Houston Rockets is my NBA team, but I also root for the Knicks. Football is the Giants.
Because of T-Mac. It's a good reason.
Because of Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady was my favorite player growing up. I actually started as an Orlando Magic fan when I started watching basketball. And that was the first year Tracy McGrady was on the Orlando Magic and then proceeded to be traded 2 weeks after I had gotten his jersey for the first time. So then I followed the Rockets.
NBA is the only sport that's allowed.
Yes.
Following a player. But you stuck with him. So you stuck with
But I stuck with it. I was through the Harden years. I struggled the last couple of years during the rebuild. And now the Rockets are in a very good place. So I'm happy with them.
There you go.
And then football, I'm also in the Giants boat too. I mean, it is what it is. About to watch Saquon probably win the Eagles the Super Bowl.
Don't worry, they're gonna lose. They better lose. They have to lose. 3-peat. We need it. All right, so let's talk about the immediate future of this team. I tried to come up with a starting 5, and I don't know if it makes sense or not. Cloud and Charles now are guaranteed. Mabry if she's still on the team, but let's go with if she's not. Do you put Olivia Nelson-Ododa on as power forward?
As of right now, it's probably the case depending on who we draft. If Morrow comes in, if Morrow is the draft pick at 8, I mean she's 20 points and double-digit rebounding a game this season. I could see her start stepping right into that starting power forward spot. So I'm just going to slot her in as the 4 right now. The backcourt, I mean, theoretically, it's going to be Cloud and JC would probably be my guess.
Yeah, I was going to say Sheldon's definitely playing, right? I feel like they 5th overall pick. You might as well.
You got to give her the opportunity.
You got no expectations this year. You might as well start her.
Right. And again, they could sign more free agents. They could sign veterans. They could draft. They could make trades on draft day. Like there's opportunities to fill the rosters in other places, but it seems like most of the big names are off the books now. So yeah, it should be interesting.
So who's the last starter we got? We got Cloud, JC, Odio, or no, not Odio. We got Cloud, Sheldon, the draft pick, and Tina. And if Mabry's gone,
if Mabry's gone, I got to assume it's either going to be, if they trade her for a player, it's going to be someone that's going to step into that same position, or it's going to be for a pick and it's going to be someone else that's young, or they're going to go get a veteran. Like it's very hard to put together.
Nobody on this roster. It's nobody on this roster.
I don't think. I mean, I think we ran out of players.
Yeah, so. I agree. I don't know why I was even trying to come up with a player. Yeah, I mean, Lindsey Allen will probably get solid minutes off the bench. Maybe Diamond to Shields. I'm not sure.
Right.
But we will see. I do think everyone like on this roster will end up getting minutes. Maybe because we're in blowouts, but also because of what Meziane said about everyone feeling important. And maybe there will be some players, two end of the bench players that don't get time. But like, there's no reason not to shuffle these people in and see what they got at least in the beginning of the season.
No, you got to see what you have, and fortunately you have almost the entire offseason. I think that's one of the good things. I don't think the season opens till May. So like the team has, as today, as we know, is not going to be the same team in about a month from now. And then, once you get into the camps, the preseason games, you have the draft, you have, you have exhibition games, all that stuff. Like we're going to find out pretty quickly what this team could end up being, roles and all that, but very early in the preseason, at least to start. Things change, obviously.
We got the draft on April 15th, and
April
then the
15th.
start of the season is May. Of course, it didn't come up right away.
I always forget with the
May 16th.
With the college, and they go, Final Four championship, and then like their WNBA season starts almost immediately.
Dude, the women's basketball schedule is just a year. It's insane. Now with Unrivaled too, at least they get to stay in the U.S. But I'm sure are they still going to like when does Unrivaled end? I don't even know.
I'm not sure how long the league is. I know some players are overseas right now playing. Like Bree Jones was just overseas. Our Instagram post.
Yeah,
posted something as if she was still on our team, which was a little interesting. But
yeah, Brianna's overseas, Adota's overseas, JC might be overseas, or somebody else we just picked up. I'm not sure. But yeah, dude, the Lunar Owls are stacked. I thought the Phantom were stacked too with Sabrina and Mabry.
Mm-hmm.
They're like 2 and 4 or something. I was looking.
Yeah, I haven't been able to watch too much of it. Just in the winter, I'm either scouting teams, coaching teams, running practices. My wife barely sees me, so the W doesn't get my attention in the off season as much.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's about to get a little bit more of your attention with this podcast coming up.
Yes, it is.
We're committed. We want to love this team as much as they'll allow us with these roster moves. But next episode, unless Mabry goes within the next, or like there's some huge signing, you'll probably see us around draft time. Just because I honestly I don't want to bore you guys with nothing content. We don't really have much, but we had to get this out now. There's too much going on.
Yeah, there was such a blitz. There was such a blitz of moves and hirings and everything. Like we wanted to at least establish, that we're here. We'll probably be very active on social media to, get this thing going. You'll see us under a lot of the posts. We're going to be following the news and everything. So
again, the community has also been so good to us in the 2 days we've had social accounts. I'm honestly like so thankful. We have 41 followers on Instagram. Follow us. It's actually all of our channels. No Shade CT Sun. Let me just double check, make sure. No Shade CT Sun on Twitter and on Instagram. And I believe on YouTube as well. Are you cool with putting this up on YouTube, Joe?
Yeah, no, there's no issues with that.
Okay, yeah. It's No Shade CT Sun as well. I made an account earlier today. Um, hopefully most of our listeners come from the podcast apps, but if you want to see our lovely faces, you can go on YouTube. And hopefully we get some random people just looking for Sun content on YouTube and they stumble across us. So, yeah. So the starting five, obliterated. Our sixth woman, Marina Mabry, gone. Going to be gone. All our favorite players just have evaporated, and we have Tina Charles and Natasha Cloud left. So
It's a new beginning. It's a new
yeah.
beginning. That's how you have to look at it. This, we don't know what this year is going to bring yet. There's a lot of parity in the WNBA. Obviously, you're going to have your top teams, but there's a lot of roster movement every year. So you hope that coach is able to put this roster together, start building the culture and the vision that he has, and that maybe there's a couple games early where it's bumps in the road, but somehow we're able to put it together.
And worst comes to worst, we get the number one pick next year, and it does good for podcast listeners. But we are here. If it's painful throughout the season, we're here for you. If it's great, we're here to celebrate with you. We'll be at games, hopefully get to do things where we interview some of the fans as well. Some people have been DMing our account. It's been great. People have been saying they're devastated. They have season tickets. We feel your pain. We'll see you at some of those games. Don't give up on the team now and listen and stick it with us for the ride. Things will turn around, hopefully. We don't even know. We don't even know if it's bad yet. We're just assuming that when you get rid of your entire team, that it's bad. But who knows? Maybe we'll be nasty. You never know. I
change is uncomfortable
every year thinking we're going to be good. I believed in Daniel Jones for 6 years. I should believe in this Suns team. They have more talent than the Giants do. Tina Charles herself has more talent than the entire Giants roster, outside of Malik Neighbors. They're about equal. Anything else to say?
No, just looking forward to doing this.
This hour flew by.
It's fun actually having someone to talk WNBA with, because it used to be like the guilty pleasure secret of like, oh, you watch the WNBA because they just miss layups. It's like the league is so much more than that. I always say that the WNBA is a decade behind what the NBA is, if not a little bit more. And like, I really do think a lot of the younger players that are coming up, meshing with the veterans that are already in the league and like running the league, I really think the WNBA is heading into this, like, I don't want to call it the golden era, but it's heading in that direction of like really exciting opportunities for basketball. So I'm happy to have someone to talk about it with.
Totally. I'm happy to be here for you, and I'm happy that you got me into this. And yeah, the stereotypes of the WNBA are so false. I remember there's a Family Guy sketch where it's like there's the WNBA halftime score of like 16-9, and like me and my brother, every time like a score gets to 16-9, we're like, oh, WNBA halftime score, just because we love Family Guy. But like, it's so false. Like, yeah, if you think any stereotypes of the WNBA, you're just wrong. It's great ball. The NBA has more probably missed layups and dunks than the WNBA by miles, and air balls probably. You get good defense, you get good team play, and honestly, like the players are marketable. They're really enjoyable to watch. I fell in love with watching Marina Mabry on and off the court, and DJ Carrington just be awesome people and awesome ball players. Right now, if you had to pick, who's your favorite WNBA player before we go?
Oh, my favorite? It's still Taurasi. I was a big Sue Bird fan.
Sue Bird's the GOAT. Sue Bird is the all-time GOAT.
She's one of the best players of all time, obviously. Taurasi is Taurasi, going back to the UConn days. Like, my first college game I went to, guys or girls, that wasn't, in our hometown, was to go see the UConn girls play during their heyday, and like getting to see Taurasi like just be an animal. I don't even remember how many she had that day, but I just knew this is legit basketball. And that was even, God, dating myself now, that's like 20 years ago now in college at least. So it's still Taurasi. I mean,
yeah, she's still killing it.
Still playing well. She can do no harm. She can play as long as she wants because shooters shoot. But with the new age players, I'm a big Ionesco fan as well. I think what she's doing for the game is she's going to be, she's tough. She plays hard. She plays the right way. Like she's very marketable as well. Like she's one of my favorite players.
Is she doing the 3-point contest again? I know Caitlin declined and wants
she
to
declined.
do
I would assume she'll probably find someone else to do it with because I know they wanted to do like a 2v2.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens because obviously Clay's on a different team now as well, so it kind of takes away from it a little bit. But
and will he even be an all-star? Is he an all-star?
No, but he wouldn't have been last year too.
Okay, he just did it for that makes sense.
Yeah. What about you? Who's your favorite right now?
It's Mabry still. It's got to be. I'm not gonna just stop loving her, but it's gonna be devastating when she leaves. Maybe I'll just start collecting her jerseys. I'll get a Sky one. I'll get a Sun one, and I'll get her next team. That's my dream would be to interview her on this podcast. That would be my ultimate goal. Her or Sue Bird, absolute goats to me. Before we leave, I just want to say everyone peep the trophy behind Joe, 2-year-old fantasy football trophy. He is a winner, so let's give him that. Give him a round of applause, even though he should be shipping that trophy out to the winner.
All I do is win every now and
then. I just noticed it. I was like, oh my god. All right, so yeah, we'll see you for a potential Mabry trade. If we sign somebody that I need to see the list of free agents left. But if there's a big signing out there and we sign, we'll be back. If not, maybe a pre-draft or our live draft. We'll maybe do this during the draft live if we have time, or just our reactions after. But yeah, we'll be all over social media, so follow us. I just want to get it right one more time. All right, No Shade CT Sun. No Shade CT Sun on all social medias, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Please follow us. It means the world. Thank you, and let's bring the heat, or whatever they say. No, they
Thanks,
say
everybody.
# bring the heat.